Good evening, friends. Welcome, members of INTAC. Welcome, friends of INTAC, to our program. We at INTAC Chennai chapter are delighted today to collaborate with Ashwitas, who are graciously hosting this event. Many of you who regularly attend our programs would be familiar with INTAC, but as my duty to those who are not familiar, I'll introduce INTAC briefly. INTAC is an acronym for the Indian National Trust for Art, Cultural Heritage. INTAC was established in 1984, 42 years ago, as a not-for-profit organization with a mission to conserve heritage. This is based on the belief that living in harmony with heritage enhances quality of life. As stated in the Constitution of India, Article 51AF, it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. Our aim as volunteers is to preserve and conserve our unprotected heritage, inculcate a sense of pride in our heritage in the younger generation, bring heritage education to the forefront to ensure concern for heritage in future, care for our natural environment, our lakes, our forests, our water bodies, care for our built environment, our monuments and landmarks by initiating the conservation, keep alive our living heritage and support traditional communities, crafts and arts, including folk art. Over 200 chapters of INTAC nationwide work very hard, just with the passion and strength of volunteers, to take INTAC's vision forward. At Chennai chapter, we have formed heritage clubs in schools and colleges and volunteer training to sensitize youth to protect our rich culture. We have conducted walks, talks, film shows, and quizzes on varying aspects of heritage: temples, bringing stolen idols home, revival of dance in temples, venues for music, Pallavas, Venkaya's contribution to epigraphy, Bruce Wood's prehistoric influences on Tanjavur Maharashtrials, Dubashas, sacred plants, Buckingham Canal, maritime heritage, Kolam, Sungadi saris, and Indian coins. Our young INTAC is active in conducting several programs for school children, including quiz, Kana Kazana competition, shadow puppetry, etc. This 21st, that's in a couple of days' time, we are conducting an inter-school competition for poster making at Shankara Vidyashram, Tiruvallur. I take this opportunity to invite those who are here to become members, in case you're not one already. And please join in this mission to save heritage and preserve it for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and in turn, their progeny. In our generation, we are mere custodians of what we have inherited from our ancestors, to preserve, protect, and hand over to our next generation. About this evening's talk, the Gujaratis were probably one of the earliest of the migrant communities in South India, and by extension, Madras, since its formation as the city we know of it to be today. Primarily known for entrepreneurial spirit, Gujaratis have philanthropy in their DNA, long before it became a formal concept as CSR. This talk seeks to take a look at a few prominent personalities and contributions to the social fabric of the city. And about the speaker, Karthik Bhatt is a practicing chartered accountant by profession. Outside of his profession, Karthik has been involved in freelance research and writing on various aspects of the heritage of Madras or Chennai since 2008. He has contributed articles on this subject to Madras Musings, a fortnightly dedicated to the city, and to other magazines, and has also spoken at various fora on the same topic. He has been associated with the noted historian V. Sriram, an author, as a research assistant on a few of his books. Karthik has four books to his credit, three as co-author with V. Sriram. They are Brick by Brick, the Vidya Mandir Story, Brotherhood and Benevolence, the story of English Freemasonry in South India, and Copalapuram Chronicles. Karthik's first independent work titled From the Beginning, the MOP Vaishnav College Story, commemorating the Silver Jubilee of the institution, was released in July 2017. Karthik is also an amateur theatre artist, Tamil theatre artist, and has nearly 400 stage appearances to his credit with various city-based drama troupes. Karthik is a treasure house of knowledge and is passionate about Chennai's history and heritage. Karthik, we're all ears to hear you.
Thank you, Divakar ji, for that introduction. My thanks to ITAC, to Sujata ma'am, who I think unfortunately is not here. I think she's away. So, to Sujata ma'am, to Divakar, who reached out to me earlier this month and to put this talk together. Actually, I was just mentioning before, I've spoken, I just going through my old records, I find that I have spoken on the same topic at Intac sometime in 2012. So it's kind of just that, I just don't recollect it at all. But anyway, so how should we start this? Is it okay if I keep moving, or when you want me to?
You're an actor, man.
It's hard to control the once I see your mic, that's second nature. So uh, the first thing that I think one should remember is that the Gujaratis are probably one of the, if not the oldest migrant community, Indian communities here in South India, and they have a presence, a documented presence going back to at least the mid 1600s, and probably when you consider the Saurashtrian presence in places like Madurai, so that dates back even earlier, so from the 1500s or so. So you're looking at a 500, a 400, 500 500 years of association of Gujaratis here in South India in Madras. I first started researching on the Gujaratis, on the Gujarati community, sometime way back in 2010. And I wrote a series of articles in Madras Musings that was published as a three-part series. And so that was what got me started on researching about Gujaratis. And over the last 15 years, I've kind of, keep adding bits and bits of information as and when, I'm able to gather. So I'm giving this caveat to state that this is by no means a comprehensive account of the Gujarati history in Chennai or in Madras in South India, nor are the personalities, institutions covered here a complete list of the Gujarati contribution to the social history, to the fabric of our city. So, but to try and give the audience gathered a kind of at least a broad spectrum, a broad idea of the contribution of the Gujaratis to Chennai. So I thought I would make this a kind of a instead of being a personality centric talk, I thought, okay, let's try and make it a talk from a social perspective. So because one of the disadvantages of making it a personality oriented talk, becomes invariably there is someone in the audience who says, why has this person been included, why is X included but why is not Y included, and things like that. So you don't know where to stop really, or how to say. But anyway, so I thought, okay, instead of making it a personality oriented of structuring the thing as a personality oriented thing, I thought, okay, let's do it as a social, from a social perspective, and then try and weave in stories of various personalities who were involved in that. So I started my talk with the thing that they were one of the Gujaratis are one of the oldest migrant communities here in Chennai. So how do we say that? So there are two, I mean, there are two things, or there are two nuggets of information by which I arrive at this conclusion. One is, when I started off on this Gujarati, on researching on Gujaratis, I was handed over a copy of a book called Madras Ilakano Digdarshan. It's a book in Gujarati, and that's a book which loosely translates to an overview of the Madras presidency. So that's the rough translation of the title. So it was published a century ago, almost exactly a century ago, by a man called Madhavrai Gigabai Joshi, and he was the editor of a weekly called the Malabar Samachar. So he was based in Cochin, and so the Malabar Samachar was a weekly that came out from that, and Madhavrai Gigabai Joshi was the editor of that particular weekly. So there he states, I mean, so Madras Ilakano Digdarshan is basically it's kind of a compendium of the geography of the presidency, mineral wealth, prominent businesses, families, personalities, and stuff like that. So, in the context of one particular family who were famed dwellers here in the 20th century, T.B. Mehta and Sons. So, in the context of T.B. Mehta and Sons, he states that the ancestors of the people who ran the business then, they migrated from Gujarat to Tanjavur in the mid 1600s, where people of their community, people from their family were already living. So that's the conclusion that he makes. So if you take 1639, 1640 as the starting point of the city as we know it today, of the city as we know it today. If you take 1639 as that, so you had people. So this reference, it's easy to, I think, reasonable to make the assumption that the Gujaratis were here from even earlier that time. Okay, this is an extract from the diary and consultation book of the Fort St. George from 1703 or 1704, if I remember right. And you look at it says Gujarats. Okay, so the context is that when the East India Company was then looking to build a town wall. Now this town wall is not to be confused with the actual town wall which came up in post 1749. So this is from even earlier. So when there is a proposal to build a town wall, so the East India Company decide to raise money from the people who inhabit the black town, the intended beneficiaries. And so they say an assessment proposed to be raised to pay for the building of the black town wall and works. So you leave alone the Portuguese and the Armenians, you leave alone those two, and then you look at the Indian communities mentioned there. And so the Gujarats there are supposed to subscribe a sum of 500 pagodas. And so if you look at it, so you've got the committees who are supposed to subscribe 800 pagodas, and then the next thing you have is the Gujaratis who are supposed to. So you can see that they were kind of quite in prominence even in the early days of the East India Company. Now I will jump a century and a half, and then from there. So this is a man called Shivashankara Pandya. Shivashankara Pandya was a Khedawal. A Khedawal is a sub-community of the Gujaratis. It's the community which I belong to. So basically, people from the district of Kheda are known as Khedawals. Kheda is a district in Gujarat, not far away from Ahmedabad, a couple of hours away from Ahmedabad. So that's so people from Kedawals. One thing before I move further is that see very when you read about the migration of various communities from within even the Gujarati community here. So there are a lot of reasons that people keep coming up with as to why they migrated, and from there to South India, or what made them stay here, and things like that. So I think it's safe to surmise, whatever may be the reason, there may be differences at individual family levels and all that. But I think one common reason, if you look at it, I think it would be safe to surmise would be that of business, because primarily it's a community which is known for its entrepreneurial spirit. So they move wherever they see business opportunities. So I think it's fairly easy to conclude. I mean, this is a very broad-based conclusion, I agree, but then I guess it's fair to make it at at a macro level. So the Kedawals were amongst the earliest migrants from South India, because T.V. Mehta and Sons are, so they are from the Kedawal community. So they've been here since the 1600s. So, and Tanjavur is where, even I trace my ancestry too. So my ancestors were in Tanjavur. We had a presence, we had a family house in Tanjavur well until the 1980s. So, which was from the 1700s and the 1800s. So Shiv Shankar Pandya was a Kedawal born in 1853 in Madras, in Puliyur. How many of you know what Puliyur is? So, yeah, Puliyur is Kolambakam. So his father Ramnatha Pandya was the Dharmakarta of the Shivan temple at Puliyur. So Shiv Shankar Pandya he had his education here in Madras, and he was quite proficient. He graduated with a BA mathematics degree, and I think he stood second in the presidency or something. And then he later went on to become a lawyer, practicing law in Tanjavur, in the Tanjore courts. Then after some time, he felt that he lost interest in that, and he felt his calling lay elsewhere, and he wanted to be a teacher. So he quit his job and he becomes a teacher, teaching at the Pachapas institution, on the Pachapas school on NSC Bose Road, on China Bus Road, what today is NSC Bose Road. So Shiv Shankar Pandya is one of those believers. I mean, he's an ardent Hindu, a Hindu nationalist at heart. So because he believes that the system of education doesn't teach enough of Hindu customs, Hindu values, and ideals of Hinduism and things like that. So he decides, and fueling is his instinct. He wants to do something to change the narrative, and so fueling his his desire is reports of a conversion attempt that happened in the late 1880s at the MCC school, which was just down the road from the Pachapas institution. So the Madras Christian College. So that's where, so there is a report of an attempted conversion, and so that's what kind of really fuels Shiv Shankar Pandya's ambition. And so he decides to start what is called the Hindu Theological High School, what becomes known as the Hindu Theological High School. That school that's an old building. The building doesn't exist anymore. This is a photograph from probably the 40s or the 50s, and the school still functions. Founded in 1889, it still functions in Mint Street. So this is at the fag end of Mint Street. And Dr. K.N. Kesari, the famous Ayurvedic physician. So K.N. Kesari was an alumnus of the Hindu Theological High School. So C. Kannaya of the famous Kannaya Naidu Drama Company. Kannaya Naidu was an alumnus of the Hindu Theological High School. So you had, and then from the Nathala family. I mean, I think from the Nathala family, with the famous jewelers. So there were people from the family who went to Hindu Theological High School. B.D. Goenka, son of Ramnath Goenka, he went to Hindu Theological High School. So a lot of it has produced a lot of illustrious alumni. In the 1890s, it plays host to Swami Vivekananda. When Swami Vivekananda in 1897 returns from the West and stays here for 9 days in what later comes to be known as the Vivekananda Illam of today, the Ice House. So in 9 days, in the 9 days that he's here, he delivers a lot of lectures. He's given a lot of receptions, and one such reception is organized at the Hindu Theological High School. Shivashankar Pandya was he knew multiple languages. So and an address is read out by Shivashankar Pandya in Sanskrit to Swami Vivekananda, to which Swami Vivekananda also responds. So Swami Vivekananda has visited the Individual High School. Mahatma Gandhi has visited the school. So it's a school that has a lot of a hoary heritage. But even way back in the 1930s, for some reason, because the founder was a Gujarati, and there were a lot of other prominent Gujarati gentlemen from those times who were involved with the management committee. For some reason, it got tagged or got the image of being a North Indian school, which is why when the anti-Hindi agitation was at its peak in the 1930s, 1937, 38, there were demonstrations, there was picketing outside the Hindu Theological High School, conveniently forgetting the fact that by that time it was catering to a lot of people from the lower and the middle and the lower strata of society in those areas. So even today, it's a school which caters to a lot of people from the lower income groups of the society there, and still functions every year. There is a Shiv Shankara Pandya Day that's celebrated and things like that. So Shiv Shankar Pandya also ran a magazine called the Hindu Excelsior, which was basically to propagate ideals of Hinduism, to learn about the Vedas. He conducted classes. He across the city. He spoke at a lot of places, and he also ran this magazine. He also began what is called a Hindu Tract Society, which published pamphlets and booklets on various aspects of Hinduism. And Pandya died, I mean, he was only 45 when he passed away. He passed away in 1899. So, but then after Pandya, there have been many well known educationists who have been associated with the school. I don't know how many of you are familiar with a man called Kulapati Balakrishna Joshi. Balakrishna Joshi was a very noted educationist, very proficient in English from the 60s to the 70s, and from 1940 he was an alumnus of the school himself, and from 1944 to 1970 served as the principal of the school. After that, he Balakrishna Joshi was also a consultant, or he was a mentor to the DAV school, to the Sindhi model, and a lot of other schools as well. So Balakrishna Joshi again from the Gujarati community. So that's about Shiv Shankara Pandya and the Hindu High School. Moving on, today we talk about things like vegetarianism and cow protection, animal rights, and things like that. So way back 100 years ago, there was an organization formed by a group of Gujarati Jains called the South Indian Humanitarian League. So I have no idea, because the trail of this institution runs cold after the 50s or the 60s. So, but I have no idea if this institution is still around. So, if it is still around, it would complete 100 this year. Founded on the 9th of December 1826. So, 1926, by a group of Gujarati Jains, an organization called the South Indian Humanitarian League. This is Ahimsa, the quarterly journal of the League, and editing is the C.S. Malinath. Was one of the prominent, along with a man called Jiva Bandhu T.S. Shripal. So C.S. Malinath, T.S. Shripal, they were all prominent Tamil Jains who were involved with the functioning of the South Indian Humanitarian League and also this magazine. So this is to give you an idea of the management committee. So you find a lot of well-known names in the world of business here, from the world of commerce, who have been involved at that point of time. Now the president is Jinara Jadasa, the famous Jinara Jadasa, the theosophist who was quite active on the social scene here. And amongst those names that I could recognize, Nagji Purushottam, I think they were the ones. They still function. The Sun brand umbrella, which is the famous Sun brand umbrella. They're not headquartered here. I think they're based in Calicut, but that's one name that I could recognize. And then Amichan Nagindas, I think, were jewelers. So Mukchand Hansraj was again a prominent businessman. I don't recollect what he was into, but these are some. In fact, Mukchand Hansraj. The impetus for this comes when Gujarati, when a Jain monk, I think Muniraj Vijay Rajji, if I remember the name right, if I got the name right. So he gives a lecture on the concept of humanitarianism, on ahimsa and all that at the Dadawadi at the Dadawadi Derasar in Ainavaram. So as a fallout or emerging from that meeting is the formation of the organization. And in 1926, Mukchand Hansraj, at the very meeting, he subscribes a sum of 7,500 towards the starting of this organization. The president is C. Jinarajadasa, vice presidents Mohan Mul G. Chaudhya, Hazari Mul Rupchand Chabildas, Fauzmul Mulchand, and then trustees you've got Mukchand Hansraj, Suklaji Samadadia, Gulabchand Gamnaji, Nagji Purushottam and Co., with the treasurers being Amichand Nagindas. Honorary Secretary Devsi Mulchand and Rikalab Das Babutmal. So, oh, lovely. So you're from the one of those families, or? Not the family, but my father used to belong from. He descended in 1950. Okay. And was associated with most of these people. Lovely, lovely. The Dukes and Savitas Trust, all those people. Lovely, lovely. And still in touch with those families. Nice, nice. Yeah. It's like I use the task WA the Gollavar and the first slide you're talking about. So it's basically I mean, I've never gotten around to finding out. Var is like Gollavar Agraharam. So it's, I think, people denoting people of that particular thing. So that's how it is. And what was the Humanitarian League doing? So the main activity of the Humanitarian League was to prevent animal sacrifice, which was happening at a lot of temples and small and big across South India. So they were responsible in stopping animal sacrifices or bringing them down substantially in a lot of temples, including the Periyapalayam temple, I think the Tiruvattriyur temple, and from in the 1920s and 30s. So people from the league used to actively go to these villages and speak to the temple committees, to the people involved in organizing them and all that, and actively speak to them on the need to actually stop animal sacrifice, which they said is against Hinduism, and it's not it's not mandated. So that was one of their major contributions. And then there was a book also which they published sometime in the 50s on cow protection. So now today, I mean, we are talking about animal rights. So there's an organization founded by Gujaratis even 100 years ago which was doing all of this. So quite correlated to that is the Pinjra pole. So the Madras Pinjra pole in Ainavaram. How many of you have been to the Pinjra pole? Right, quite a few here. So it's one of the Pinjra pole is one of the best maintained, cow shelters here. My friend there disagrees, but then yes, it's better maintained than most of other places. So at least there's a lot of open space and for the cows to feel. So the Pinjra pole was again a Gujarati creation, where prominent Gujaratis from in the early 1900s from across families got together to fund the formation of this Madras Pinjra pole. And if you look at this, this is the foundation stone from 1906. And you see one name there. The land of 12 acres was gifted by Giridhardas Chaturbhujadas and Diwan Bahadur Govindas Chaturbhujadas in memory of the late founder of member Chaturbhujadas Kushaldas. This is the Diwan Bahadur Govindas Chaturbhujadas mentioned in the plaque, and he hailed from a well-known business firm called the Chaturbhujadas Kushaldas and Company. The firm founded in the 1820s. They were into a lot of businesses, and then later they became managing agents. So they got the managing agency business and all that. So this is Diwan Bahadur Govindas Chaturbhujadas, born in the 1880s, 1870s. And at the age of 35, he was appointed the Sheriff of Madras. So he was Sheriff of Madras in 1913 or so. And by that time, he'd also gotten a Diwan Bahadur title. So one of the wealthiest people in South India from that time. And one contribution of Diwan Bahadur Govindas Chaturbhujadas will still remains tucked away, I mean, hidden away from, and you will miss it unless, you know the area or where it stood. is the statue of King George V right outside the Flower Bazaar police station. Now, King George V is kind of sandwiched in between rows of shops which have been recently constructed by the corporation. So shops which are meant to be left. But if you look at the plaque there, it would say contribution of Diwan Bahadur Govindas Chaturbujadas. Today, I mean, this organization is best known for its canteen. For Gujarati, you tell the name Gujarati Mandal, and people will first recognize the canteen. So, but then, I mean, it was an organization that was founded with social service in mind, primarily with social service, and to kind of act as an umbrella organization for various Gujarati families and other institutions here. And Gujarati Mandal was founded exactly a century ago. So 1925. So 2025 it completed 100 years. So and Gujarati Mandal, was because social service was, and they were also actively involved with the freedom movement. So and here you have a news report from 1940-41 of a man called Mohanlal Mehta, who was vice president of the Gujarati Mandal, who was arrested for offering satyagraha. The 40-41 was the time of the individual satyagraha movement, where a lot of them wrote to Mahatma Gandhi seeking his permission or seeking his blessings to offer satyagraha. And once it came, they all offered satyagraha, and a lot of notable names. Of course, the most notable individual satyagraha, which had bigger ramifications, completely unconnected to Gujaratis or the world of Gujaratis, was that of Kalki and Vasan. So when Kalki wanted to offer satyagraha, when he got permission, Vasan was against Kalki participating in that because Vasan had his own reasons. There was a disagreement. Kalki comes out of Ananda Vigadan and then starts Kalki. So that was again from the Satyagraha period. So you have this man called Mohanlal Mehta, who was very interesting. I mean, was arrested at 9 this morning at Chinnamman Kovil, China Bazaar. So it's the famous Chinnakada Amman, which stands right at the intersection of China Bazaar Road and Min Street. So it really used to be a Chinnakada Amman with hardly any moving space. So people, the tradition was the shopkeepers from that area or anyone was there would stand on the road braving all the traffic and braving getting knocked down, but they would offer a quick prayer. There used to be a place where you could light camphor and all that, do a quick darshan and then move on for the daily routine. 10 years ago the place was completely modernized, so now there is a proper prakaram and things like that. But that is the famous Chinnakada Amman. So this man was arrested from right outside the Chinnakada Amman because these people were so nationalistic, and they had Gandhi as their, just like many others, they had Gandhi as their inspiration. These people also were in 1948, soon after independence, when the Junagadh wanted to annex themselves to Pakistan. So they write a telegram, they telegram their a statement to the Nawab of Junagadh, which runs as thus. It says, the Gujarati Mandal, the only representative body of Gujaratis residing in Madras, including the residents of Junagadh state, convey their unanimous protest of the Gujaratis here against accession of Junagadh to Pakistan, much against the will of its over 80% of the Hindu population. So you can look at, I mean, you find suddenly an institution here, I mean, may not have been very influential. I don't know, we can't say if, how the ultimate decision panned out, whether these people had an influential say in it. But very interesting to find, small nuggets of history which kind of add color, which kind of add to the character of the entire institution. So this is the Gujarati Mandal. Right. So this is the Gokul Das Jamna Das company. Yes, sir.
My father was the president of Gujarati Club from 1970 to 1980.
Oh, lovely, sir.
Yes, sir. So, and that time, Prabhudas Patwari, another Gujarati, he was the governor.
Governor, yeah.
Unceremoniously removed in 1980 during Indira Gandhi regime. When President Sanjeev Reddy was the president.
One more the Gujarati Mandal. I don't know, Ambattur. How many of you have been to Ambattur? So Ambattur, there is a housing society called the Pragati Nagar, which is a very populous and it's a very a bustling part of Ambattur today. So the Pragati Nagar was a creation of the Gujarati Mandal. So this is Seth Purushottam Das Gokul Das of the firm of Gokul Das Jamna Das and Company. Shri P. Haridas, senior advocate. I mean, how many of you have met him or how many of you know him and of him of the Vaishnav College? Haridas ji is a descendant of the Gokul Das Jamna Das and company. Famously, in fact, the brand name kind of still stands. I mean, I think they operate one branch of the family still is into the cloth business under the trade name of GD and Company. So that's they were, I mean, again a family with roots in Madras going back to the 1800s, to the mid 1800s. So that's Purushottam Das Gokul Das of the Gokul Das Jamna Das and Company. This was their establishment on China Bazaar Road, which later became NSC Bose Road. Now the building doesn't exist. They were involved in a lot of this. Purushottam Das Gokul Das was involved in a lot of social causes and philanthropic activities as well. So this is a ward. I mean, I'm not sure if this ward exists anymore, because today all you see is a lot of buildings which are newly constructed. But this is from a hospital called in Washermanpet, a place called the CSI Rainey Hospital. So this ward was endowed by Purushottam Das Gokul Das sometime in the 1920s. So the hospital was founded sometime in the 1913, 1914 or so. So soon after that, so this ward was actually endowed by Purushottam Das Gokul Das. Today, of course, the family or Haridas ji himself is involved through the Vallabhacharya Vidya Sabha, of which the family was one of the prime movers, along with other prominent North Indian families here from Madras. So the Vallabhacharya Vidya Sabha, which administers a lot of educational institutions in the city today, like the DG Vaishnav College, the MOP Vaishnav, and then in Saukarpet you still have schools like the SSV school, and then you have AB Parekh. I'm not sure if AB Parekh comes under their management, but then a lot of these institutions are being administered by the Vallabhacharya Vidya Sabha, of which Gokul Das in fact Govardhan Bhavan, which was constructed by this thing, still exists. It's a lovely, quaint looking building. And of late, I find that Govardhan Bhavan is being featured in a lot of movies. So, if they have to show a North Indian thing, a lot of Tamil movies feature Govardhan. I don't have a picture of Govardhan Bhavan with me, but the building still, it's a very quaint building on Ekambareshwara Agraharam. So, and nicely maintained and all that. So, that's Purushottam Das Gokul Das of Gokul Das Jamna Das and Company. I move over to two more prominent names, the Lords, the famous WhatsApp forward, or the famous, the infamous thing of Lord Labak Das being a corruption of the Lord and all that, thoroughly undeserved, because I mean it's kind of trivializing who these people were. They were at that time the largest or the richest of families in South India. So in the again from the mid 1800s, and on the left is Lord Krishnadas Balamukundas, and on the right is his son Lord Govindas. So again, the family was into a host of businesses, indigenous banking, and money. There is basically money lending, and a lot of other activities as well. And this is their residence, a building that doesn't survive anymore. This is a place called Patter's Gardens. So today, when you drive down Patter's Road, on your right, you can see the Congress headquarters, the Satyamurthy Bhavan. The Satyamurthy Bhavan was part of this, or it fronts what used to be this building. So this is Patter's Garden. The building doesn't exist anymore. Patter's Garden has been associated with, in fact, around Patter's Garden, you find a lot of members of the family being commemorated there in road names. So I think there's one road called, wait, I forget the thing, but on General Patter's Road. Just off that, there are 3-4 road names which commemorate members of the family. Oh my God, I'm just forgetting that. But there are 2-3 names. I mean, all of them are corrupted beyond recognition today, but then the names are originally commemorating people from this Lord family. So this Lord Krishnadas, Balamukundas, and Lord Govindas were involved in a lot of charitable activities as well. So this Patter's Garden, coming back to Patter's Gardens, so it has played host to a session of the Indian National Congress. It has hosted the music, the annual conferences of the Music Academy. Swami Vivekananda has visited Patter's Garden during the same 1897 visit. So way back in 2009, when Mr. Sriram and we did a tour then called Swami Vivekananda's Madras. So which basically traced all or most of the places associated with Swami Vivekananda in our city. So then one portion of Patter's Gardens, not the main bungalow, but I think must have been one portion which some kind of a outhouse or something connected with that was still around. So in 2009. So I remember because we happen to know a few members of the family. In fact, Lord Ram Gopal, who's one of the grandsons of Lord Lord Govindas. So was one of the, and then there is Lord Mahendra, who is a very famous dentist in Mylapore, having his clinic on Kacheri Road. So all of them are descendants of the Lord family. So we went into one portion of what used to be Patter's Garden. Lord Govindas there's a small memorial to Lord Govindas which lies completely hidden away from the road. In fact, there are a lot of bushes, there's a lot of overgrowth right outside Patter's Garden. So it's a private memorial to Lord Govindas who passed away in 1944. So, but why are they here featured here, and what was their contribution? Now, this is a building which is half sunk. I mean, I'm not sure if any of it remains anymore. It's, this is a place called Umdabag. Umdabag, or more popularly known as the Madras school on Mount Road. So that, I mean, it must have almost collapsed. I mean, this is, it's completely gone. Okay, so yeah, so this madrasa has the Umdabag. So this was one of the residences of Krishnadas Balamukundas. So he owned properties across the city, one of which was Umdabag, which he had bought from it was basically a Nawabi property which he bought. And Umda is noble in Urdu, so the Umda Bags, the noble gardens. And when the government wanted to start the Madrasa-e-Azam and wanted the property, Krishnadas Balamukundas sold it at practically 1/3 the price. So said it's cost for the education. So I mean, this is not the time to profit out of an educational venture. So that was the thing. So there is Krishnadas Balamukundas. Even now on what is the street? I think is it Naidiyappan Street or no? It's not Naidiyappan. One of the other streets. There is an organization called the Chennapuri Annadana Samajam. Which survives even till date. I have a photograph of the building on the next slide. No, it's in Parktown. Sir, this is stuck again, sir. I can't even get the signal. Anyone here? I think it's in need of changing the battery or something. I think I'll just have to use the laptop. Right. So this is the building, the main building of the Chennapuri Annadana Samajam, a very noble building, an institution which was founded in the aftermath of the famine, the famous famine of the 1870s. A man called Mogallur Kannaya Chetty, so who decided that there has to be a place where people can be fed every day. So a charitable institution, and Chennapuri Annadana Samajam also used to run a school in Arepuram. I'm not sure if the school. So the school is still there. Oh, lovely. Bucks Road. Oh. Right. Okay. So there. So this Chennapuri Annadana Samajam still runs a school in Arepuram. So that was, so this main building was, I mean, the letterings are not visible there, but there you can find by the munificence of, I think it said, but thanks to the Lord Krishnadas Balamukundas' contribution. This building was put up. I think he subscribed around 20,000 rupees or something for putting this up in the early 1900s. And the Krishnadas Balamukundas also endowed the city or gifted to the city the statue of King Edward, which used to stand outside the government estate. Until about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, there used to be the statue right outside what is today the multi-speciality referral hospital. So this used to stand on Mount Road, right? Also, this was an endowment of Krishnadas Balamukundas to the city in 1903. Yeah, this is working here again. Okay, so I guess I've just run to the end of the presentation. I was not sure if there's one more institution which I was not sure if I would be able to cover given the time involved. But there's one more institution that I would like to talk about is now. See the talkers. I mean, how many of you have heard of the talkers? So the TAWKER. So the talkers are one of the most prominent Gujarati names in South India. There's always been a talker, mentioned in history. In fact, even the famous Dubash Anandaranga Pillai, in his diaries. So he mentions a talker way back in the 1700s. It's in the 1760s. So where basically one talker, they were primarily into the diamond trade, so diamond businesses and the diamond and the jewelry trade. So the talkers, the descendants of the talker, mentioned in Anandaranga Pillai, was the famous firm of T.R. Talker and Sons. T stands for Trichy. I mean, so they moved to Trichy, and so that's a Trichy Ranganatha Talker and Sons, and they were huge. I mean, the magnitude at which they operated, the scale at which that operated is just unimaginable. So, and these were, they were supplying, they had dealings with the Shah of Persia, they had, dealings with, from the Maharaja of Mysore, the Nizams. Name any royal family, the talkers would have dealt with them. So, but one of, not exactly directly related to this business firm, but one from one family which shared their surname, the talker surname, with two sisters, Ramkaur and Ratna, Ramkaur Bai and Ratna Bai. How many of you have been to the Kashi Vishwanathar temple in Ainavaram? Anyone has been to the Kashi Vishwanathar temple in Ainavaram? Right, so this is just opposite the Ainavaram bus stand on the place is known as Konur High Road, the famous Konur High Road. So Kashi Vishwanath temple was a temple built in 1801, and the main deity, the Shivalinga there, is supposed to have been brought by Ramkaur and Ratna Bai from Kashi. So that's why the name the Kashi Vishwanathar temple. And they start or they endow so they create an endowment for basically the administration of the temple and also to do a lot of charities. And they have today, luckily, it's hidden from plain sight because otherwise, in today's thing of when there is a big land parcel, it doesn't necessarily attract good eyes and all that. So, but yeah, so it's luckily it's hidden away from plain sight. But there are a row of 10 to 12 houses fronting the temple, which is a lovely agraharam. So it makes for a lovely agraharam of the Kashi Vishwanath temple. All of them were built, all of them single-storied houses with those tiled roofs, with the traditional tinne and things like that. At the far end of those line of houses is what is known as the Talker's Chowltree. So the Talker's Chowltree was from, from couple of generations ago. If you were a poor student, so generally if you were a poor student from the Mofsals and if you came to the city to study and all that, you needed a place to stay, you needed a place where you could be fed, and that's why you found a lot of charitable organizations or a lot of charities endowing chatrams, as they call chowdhuries. In fact, the Ramakrishna Mission Students' Home in Mylapore was founded because 5 students were found languishing without a place to to stay and to eat. So that's how. So this Talker's Chowdhury was founded with the intention or with the objective of providing people who were unable to who did not have the means to stay outside, or to, who did not have money for their food, to actually a place to provide them with boarding and lodging. So, and a lot of people who have stayed at the Talkers Chatram have made it big in government service later, and in companies, in banks. So if that place is really, if you look at it, it's provided a lot of people with a ray of hope in their lives at a very pivotal moment in their lives, when they're undergoing their, doing their education, all that. Today, hardly the situation is completely changed. Hardly anybody stays, not only here, but chatrams themselves have undergone a transformation, an overall transformation. But the Talkers Chatram still survives. Chowdhury still survives. Another famous tradition of Chennai. No one knows how this originated, or how it, actually, who started it and all that. But the famous Tirupati Kodai, during the Puratasi Masam, where, it starts from a particular place, and then it moves to Tirupati through, there are, so what used to be, I think, one Kodai, I think there are 2-3 Kodais now, which are, going the procession of umbrellas. So one of the stops that it generally makes is at the Talkers Chatram, where they used to, I don't know if they stay overnight still, but then they used to stay overnight at the Talkers Chatram, and so one of the stops there. The how many of you are associated with the SRES, the Southern Railway Employee Union? So the Southern Railway Employee Union was founded here in a meeting at the Talkers Chatram. So all of it, so again, if you look at it, is a, maybe an indirect Gujarati connection here again to the city. So with this, I think, I hope I have given you a kind of a broad overview of, the Gujarati community here, their contributions to the social, cultural, and the business ecosystem of our city. And as I said, so this is by no means comprehensive, nor are the personalities covered here comprehensive, but this is work in progress. So hopefully, as and when there is new bits of information emerging, that's the beauty. In today's internet driven age, you never know where the next bit of information comes from. So there are a lot of people wanting to document their family heritage, and Gujaratis who put up stuff elsewhere. So as and when this the information starts building, as and when the content starts building, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot more information that is going to come out about the contribution of this vibrant community to our city. Thank you very much for being a wonderful audience.
So Karthik is available for any additional clarifications or interactions.
Department of Jainism at Madras University is started by Gujarat. Department of Jainism of Madras University.
The Department of Jainism in the Madras University is started by Sri Paul Chandra Sodia,
Sri Paul was a prominent
Commissioner, Police Commissioner. He was in the IPS.
No, there was a Shripal who was, police commissioner and all that. But there was another Shripal who was known as Jeevabandhu T.S. Shripal, who was a social worker. So Jeevabandhu Shripal was born into a Tamil family, born I think in 1900 or so, and he used to edit a Jain magazine, a magazine in Tamil called Nallaram, I think that was the name of the magazine. So in the 60s and 70s. So, I don't know who probably you're referring to, that Shripal, I don't know, sir, but yeah.
I told that one deer broker company pays over a Trichy big factor because they could not collect the dues from the exam of data.
Yeah, so the T.R. and Talker and Sons, they went, bust around 100 years ago. So there are a lot of, it's an ongoing research. So as and when there's more information available, we will, I hope to do a separate profile on the Talkers. So because they were big, they were huge. In 1911, in the 19, not both in the Coronation Darbar of the Grand Coronation Darbar of 1911, you find on, I'm sorry, the 1903 Darbar, you find them, in fact, the official brochure published on that occasion, it says that they've occupied one huge portion of the western wing of the jewelry section in the exhibition there. And the value of the jewelry by those standards was pegged at 60 lakhs. 60 lakhs in 1903. So, and they were huge. So, in fact, when King George makes the visit in 1911 after being crowned the King Emperor, so the actual, when the citizens of Madras, they welcome him with a ceremonial, an address, the casket and all that. That casket is made by Talker and Sons. So they were involved with, a lot of, they were huge really. But I mean, a lot of reasons as to why they went bankrupt. So, but yeah, that's one of the legend has it that, there was some transaction for which they could not, they had leveraged heavily on, and from, they could not really recover because they could not recover the money from their client. So, sorry? Yeah. Bapalal, everyone, Bapalal, you find Bapalal here, you find the Mehtas of today and all of them are Gujaratis. So, definitely. But as I said, I did not go too much into a kind of a business, because then it becomes a case of whom do you include and whom do you leave and things like that. So, that's the thing. Yeah, Ponpula, which what today is Prince Kushal Towers. So the Kushal Das Gardens and the famous Nesamani comedy from Friends. So that was shot at the Kushal Das Gardens. So
I think in addition, they've done a lot for the medical field, set up several institutions, supported several institutions.
yeah. See, always, I mean, one notable feature of the community has always been, I mean, whatever you earn, whatever you do is thanks to the society. So, you will have to give back to society. The community has always been, so this has been in their blood, from way before, as I said, it became part of fancy corporate jargon. So,
That was gone. What happened to that area when it was sold off?
yeah. So within it's a huge family. So there were multiple brothers, and so it got partitioned within the family. So today that building doesn't exist anymore. So the front portion, I think they gave it to the Congress, to the Congress there, because that's where Satyamurthy Bhavan is there today.
Karthik, what's the approximate population in Chennai?
No idea. I have no I have no idea, because it's not just one. What should I say? One sub community alone. So I think I was able to gather at least 6 or 7 different, if you look at the Gujarat state as a whole. So you've got people from Gujarat, various communities from within Gujarat who all have a presence here in Chennai. So if you look at a Gujarat, so there are the Baj Kedawals, there are the Dakshin Gujarati Kedawals, there are the Shihoris, there are the Vaniyas, there are the Gujarati Jains, there are the Kachi Memons from the Muslim community who migrated from Kutch. And if you look at their presence has always been near, or it has been almost near places where there has been ports. So in near the, so you got Khan Bahadur Adam Haji Mohammad Said, who was one of the founding directors of the southern region in RBI. So was one of the presidents of the South Indian Chamber of Commerce. So Adam Haji Mohammad Said, the business still survives. It's being run by his grandson in Bandar Street. So so there are Kachi Memons. So it's very hard to make an estimate as to how many Gujaratis here are there here. Okay.
Can I give you a small input?
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
You were talking about this group in Tamil
Thank you. You were talking, there are two names which you had mentioned. One is Roopchand Chavildas Trust. That trust still exists in Rayapuram, but they had also a commercial organization which most people here will know as South India Flour Mills. They were into this atta, chakki and all those things, and they were one of the largest mills in entire Asia. They still exist today. Of course, that family, that business, everything has got wiped off like most of the people's business. But that Roopchand Chavildas Trust, they still have an organization in Rayapuram, wherein it was known that they were giving houses to those families who could not afford to have even a TV those days. And then later on the time came when they were permitting black and white TV, but the moment someone acquired color TV, he was requested to vacate that place so that another down the line can do. And then it's kept on migrating. Today, it is stopped at a two-wheeler. If somebody can afford a car, then he is requested that you please leave so that down the line someone can do that. So this is Rupchand Chabilla's trust actually. Their descendants are still there. One of them is still alive right now. And another is Nagjipur Somdas, the umbrella business actually. Their descendants are right now only in Hyderabad. Of course, they are my very close friends also actually, the umbrella guys. The hierarchy at the Chennai and everything, practically it has got wiped off and they are no more in that umbrella business now. So that was it. And they have two more organizations. One was Kanya Shala, if you might know.
The Gujarati Kanya Shala.
The Gujarati
again, more than 100 years.
Yes, more than 100 years now.
Ravanayar Street.
Ravanayar
Street.
So. Yeah, exactly. That is one that exists today. And then next to that is one Gujarati.
It's called, I think, the Kelvan ZPH Zaverilal Purushottam Das
Kanya Kelavadi Mandal. Kanya
Kanya
Kelavadi Mandal. Yeah, that's correct. And they have one more organization. It is called R.K. Mehta English Primary School. So the thing was that the people over here, they were versed only with Tamil or Gujarati. So of course it's a proud moment to share with, nothing to claim about. So my father was approached in 1963 for a donation to start a primary school up to 5th standard. So he said that on one condition I'll donate if you make it as a complete English medium primary school. So if somebody can study up to 5th standard in English, then further they will progress only to that particular thing. That school also exists today. It is in the name of R.K. Mehta English Primary School. That is my mother's name, Rukshmani Ben Kastuchan Mehta English. So that it still exists today. And next to that is that Gujarati Sahayakari Hospital.
That Sahayakari Hospital is closed, sir.
Now it is closed. My father was the managing trustee of that particular 25. Yeah, he expired in 1991. And the sole purpose was it was started with a maternity home. Lalchand Gandhi.
I was born 2 streets away from there. Because my maternal grandfather was resident of Samudramudli Street.
So that's a Samudramudli Street.
Yeah.
So if you take 2 decades back, more than 50 to 70% of the Gujarati community was born when my mother will be available in the delivery room actually. My father being the managing trustee, they will call, Amma, will you come and help? Because they were not allowed inside. So half of the Gujarati population I can say was born out of my mother's hand. That's hospital, of course, does not exist. It went on to become a 6-story building, everything, but then it collapsed. So that was a small bit of information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There is a Jain college in Medampakam. There is a Jain college.
As a token of our appreciation, we'd like to proceed.
Good evening. On behalf of INTAC, I thank our speaker, Mr. Karthik Bhatt, for giving us an insight on the contributions of the Gujarati community in Madras. It was so interesting to know that the Gujaratis have been very early settlers in our city and in the state. So their contributions in the field of religion, culture, education is so noteworthy. And to think that they had the vision and foresight to protect practices like vegetarianism, protection of cows, and nationalistic values is really remarkable. And we always associate entrepreneurship and sharp business acumen to Gujaratis, and today's talk only laid more emphasis to that aspect. So they have always been very generous in the land donations and food distribution, and I think we should be really grateful for all that they have done for our city and for our state. For all the descendants and the proud Gujaratis who are present here, we thank you all. We are very grateful for everything, and we hope you will continue their noble practices. I thank Ashwita Cafe for sharing their space and supporting INTAC in all our meetings. Thanks to the photographers for covering. Thanks to one and all of you for being present here and for supporting INTAC. Thank you. Have a good night.